Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Crisis Management and Communications for Associations webinars. This is the webinar series in conjunction with the AE Institute virtual series. My name is Kyle Lambert-London. I am with the National Association of Realtors staff and just want to welcome everyone today to our series and thank you very much for attending. Without further ado, I am going to pass the reins over to Bill Sterling to get us started.
Well, good day, everybody. Welcome to our third live-streamed AEI Institute education session. And this one, obviously, is Crisis Management and Communications. And my name is Bill Sterling. I'm the CEO of the Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Realtors here in St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. And I am one of the co-chairs, along with Jim Heisler, of the 2020 AE Institute. So before I introduce today's presenters, I want to go over some WebEx specifics with all of you. First, because bandwidth is scarce these days right across the country, so for better streaming, please close any unnecessary browsers you have and any extra windows that you have open on your computer. That should speed things up if you're experiencing any lagging or any buffering. Secondly, we have muted all the attendees to cut down on background noise. If you have a question or a concern, use the chat function on the right-hand side of the screen. And if you want to ask questions, you can do that through the chat function as well. So now on to today's webinar topic. Crisis preparation is critically important to every organization in real estate. And if this is your first crisis, congratulations, you've picked a doozy to learn on. I've been in the business just over 5 years now, and this is my third crisis. And a crisis can be something, huge, something significant like we're dealing with today, or a crisis could be something that just throws your plan for your organization out of whack, and you've got to stop and adjust and keep your members informed and shift gears along the way. So you're going to hear some great information today from our presenters on how to stay in touch with your members during a crisis, how to deal with issues as they pop up, and really get some experience from down in the trenches. So it's my pleasure today to introduce the presenters and get the program started. So today we have with us Andrea Bushnell, who is a longtime AE and CEO of North Carolina REALTORS, and Cynthia Walsh, who is the CEO of Brunswick County Association of Realtors in North Carolina. We also have Melynn Sight with us today. Melynn is president of nSight Marketing and has an extensive background in communications and training. So first up is Andrea and Cynthia, who will be on for about 20 minutes, and they will take questions from you during the presentation, and then we'll hear from Melynn. So over to you, Cynthia and Andrea.
Can everybody hear me? All right. Yeah. So good afternoon, good morning to all of you. It's one of those distinctions that both Cynthia and I wish we didn't have, which is being kind of experts at what to do in a disaster and during a disaster and before a disaster. So one of the things that we have been advocating for several years now is getting ready before the disaster hits. However, if that hasn't happened, what do you do and how do you do it and how do you do it quickly? So today we'll be talking about preparing to work from home. What happens if you have 24 or 48 hours to prepare? That's one scenario. But if you have absolutely no time, that's a completely different scenario altogether. And then probably most important, what we'll be talking about today is how you keep your communications going, both with staff and with members, both before and during any kind of crisis. So with that, I'm going to let Cynthia take the next screen.
So, thank you, Andrea. And please know that Andrea and I developed all this because we're in Hurricane Alley. So our approach when we originally started putting all this together, which was years ago, was for the natural disasters that we have a little bit more time to plan for, but then also keeping in mind the tornadoes and things that come in that you might not have the 24 or 48 hours to plan for. So it's, what do you do when you're going to need to work from home or you didn't even plan to work from home? So that's where we started with all this.
Yeah. Okay. So before the crisis, and hopefully you have all created your own disaster plans already. But, you know, the first thing you need to do, if you haven't done it already, is have a remote work from home policy and a plan. How do you work from home potentially for a long time? Sometimes these emergencies last, usually they are not a quick fix. Even if you have a hurricane or a storm or a fire, they typically last for quite a long time before you can get back to the actual day-to-day routines that are looking and sounding pretty good right now. I give anything to be able to go into my office and just do routine, but that's just not where we are, right? And so in advance of this recent COVID-19 issue, we made sure that every employee had a laptop. I've also gotten several employees iPads. We made sure that everybody had at-home internet that would work, function well, or we purchased hotspots for them so that every single employee can work remotely and continue the business that our members count on us to provide for them. We also utilize cloud storage for access of all of our documents and records so that everybody can have access to all of the documents that we need anytime and real time. Make sure that you know what's in your reserve policy. Know what it can be used for and what it can't be used for in an emergency. So, for example, I have a couple of people who are like me on Zooms and various programs, webinars, kind of repeatedly, and finding that having both a computer to work from as well as an iPad, as well as your phone going, sometimes it's really, really helpful to get done the work you need to do. So I knew that I could go out and I could buy a couple of iPads for a couple of my key employees who really, really did need to have multiple computers going at one time. Office closure policy. What is your policy? Do your members know what your policy is? And finally, insurance, coverage and deductibles. Do you know on any of your contracts that you have currently going what's required to activate any force majeure clause? Do you have to wait until the hotel closes down before you can actually get out of your contract? Things like that. You need to know what's required on all of those contracts that you might have that are pending.
I just want to add on the getting yourself ready, the before, if you haven't realized now when you're putting your budgets together, if you are not completely mobile, that's something you're going to have to look at for your budgeting for next year. I bought all laptops, all through the NAR partner, through Lenovo, and I have it written into my policy that it's looked at that we buy all new equipment every 3 years. Because you know that laptops become like doorstops after 3 years. So we all get all new laptops every 3 years to remain mobile. And like Andrea, I didn't buy iPads. I made sure everybody had 2 monitors at home. And if they physically took them from their desk, and we also have hubs that everybody can just plug everything in. So laptop, 2 monitors, we have 3 screens set up at home. And everything worked really well.
Yeah. Okay.
So during the crisis, what I learned during hurricanes, many hurricanes, was you need to have your resource point of contact put in place before, because you might not have electricity, you might not have time, you might not have the ability to think clearly to get your resources together. So you need to know to start to build your resources, to have all your state association key contacts, not only in a Word document, but actually written down somewhere, because if you don't have power, which has become a reality in North Carolina for extended periods of time. You need to know these things. You need to have your NAR resources, all your emails, your phone numbers written down. You need to have your state and local governments hook up with those websites, those Facebook pages, all of those places where you'll get communication from. You need to get involved with those groups electronically right now. All your utility companies in your marketplace, your electric, your cable, become part of all of their email lists, all of their Facebook groups, all of everything you can find. Get it all and get it all together now. And any relief organizations, again, coming from a hurricane standpoint, when where there's devastation and we have to get food out, know who those relief resources are ahead of time. But you've got to do this now. You need to do it now, and you need to build those resources, because I start to share those with my members during the crisis too. What are all the key contacts that you need to know? And I'm getting all these bits of information that I can then share back out.
And I would say in this case, there was no planning for COVID-19.
No.
There was no way any of us could have prepared for what has come our way this time. But I will say that one of the best values that you can bring to your members is to make sure that you are at least coordinating all of the information that's out there. Our members really care right now about the unemployment issue. So what is it in your state? Can they do? Can they not do? Has your state decided yet? Is your state even going to participate in the program? Most of the state associations are gathering and compiling that information and leaning heavily on NAR for assistance in parsing out that information and getting it out to our members. But make sure that you have one place where you can send your members so that they are not scrambling to try to get information, particularly from multiple sources, some of which are not real estate specific and may cause a lot of confusion. So just know that sometimes, no matter how good your relationships, no matter how well prepared you are, sometimes you simply have to scramble. And quite frankly, this is that situation where we've really had to scramble to get the information together for our members. But I do think that they are appreciative. I know they are. Okay, so really, are you ready, or are you really ready? So there's a couple of things. You need to make sure that all of your administrative functions are in place. So do you know where all your files and your paperwork are? Do you know how to access your membership, your contracts, your accounting systems? Are they all online? Can you access them from home? Can you print checks from home, or do you have to go into the office to do that? How do you pay bills? We already talked about having contact information. I know the cell phone numbers of virtually every local association exec in the state, so that if I need to reach out to any one of them, I know how to get them and I can get them quickly. At the same time, they all know how to reach me, as well as my members know all how to reach us. So just make sure that you have those numbers, you're ready. We already talked about making sure you have laptops, office phones, virtual meeting capacity and capabilities. So make sure you have Zoom, make sure you have WebEx, whatever your choice is. Make sure that that's set up and ready to go before. And then I love this one. This is Cynthia's, one of Cynthia's, which is one big binder. Make sure you have all of your policies, bylaws, all of your insurance, payroll, attorney contact information, all in one place. So that if you need to leave your office and you need to leave it fast, you grab it and go. Cynthia, you have anything to add to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly my thought. And all the contracts and everything we uploaded. Now, I got to preface some of this by saying, so we scanned all of our contracts for our vendors. We have them all scanned in, saved to the cloud, and there's actually, we created a spreadsheet that's got them all in there with the terms, the renewals, all that stuff in there. So I don't need to rifle through 25 different folders. It's all there. Now's the time to really think about getting rid of the paper and switching over to that type of a fully mobile environment. I've got to preface this all by saying my husband's an electrician, so even in the worst of the hurricanes, I always had power. So I can always pull this stuff off of my computer.
We're not all so lucky.
Yeah.
Okay. So T-minus 24, 48 hours. Okay.
Yeah, my T-minus 24, 48 hours. And again, coming from a disaster planning standpoint, for us, you've got to remember to take pictures of your office if you have that time. Pack for a month. I will be honest with you, even though I told my staff this time, pack your monitors, pack your laptops, pack all your stuff, pack everything. And at this point, we were only working at home for 2 weeks. Some of them only thought we were going to be working at home for 2 weeks. So they had to all shuffle back because they didn't pack for a month. For us, pick up your room means picking up off the floor, because in disasters in our world, that means flooding. So we get it all up off the floor. How are you going to answer your phones? Our phone, we have a phone system that rings in our office, and we, through an app, can transfer. Everything comes to our cell phones. So it looks no different to our outside employees. Have your exec committee, your crisis team committee, have all that in place. Talk to your staff and give them time to prep. Don't hold them there till the last minute of the last hour. For us, we usually have a window to prep our homes for a hurricane. And even for this, there was, to a certain degree, I wanted them all to get home, stop by a food store, maybe buy a gallon of milk and some lunch meat. They could make some lunch with it. For you personally, download those contracts, get all your phone numbers that you need, and get them on a piece of paper too, not just maybe your phone, but have them in several different places. Think about bringing home your employee files or anything that's in your personal locked area that you might need, that is paper, and start to set expectations and start to communicate. For me, every time there's a disaster or something like this, I create a specific graphic header that I use on every piece of communication that includes my logo and some type of graphic to depict what maybe it's just colors, maybe it's something, and then all of my messaging goes out and looks the same, and I set the date different at the top so they know it's always different. So just start setting those expectations.
Absolutely. And I will just say the only thing I want to add, because we don't have a lot of time, but the only thing I want to add is that you need to be communicating with your members a lot. They may catch something today, but not catch something tomorrow or the next day. And so you need to be so consistent and so over-communicative, I think, at this time or any time during a disaster, so that your members absolutely know that they can reach you and that they can get information that they need. So don't worry about over-communicating. I know we always say, oh, don't send too many emails or whatever, but in this particular case, we don't worry about it. We send out status updates as they're needed. If they're needed every day, we do it every day. And then we compile them in one place so that if they miss the status update from yesterday, they can still see it today.
Yeah.
Okay. So what if you don't have 24 or 48 hours? This is one of those kinds of things, and those times. This is what happened this time. We didn't have really a lot of time to figure this out because some of these orders for many of us went into effect way before we were ready for them to do. But I'll tell you what, there's nothing you can't do well and do it from home. That's the one thing I will say. Yeah. And so, but make sure that your members know that they can get you by email, that they have your phone number, that they, even the office phone or the office phone rings to your cell phone, whatever it takes, but make sure that no matter what, your members can reach you. One of our best ways of communicating is email and resource pages still. Sometimes that's not available. In a storm, for example, some of our members cannot get email. But put out information in as many ways as you can and in many formats so that your members always have a resource they can go to.
And I'll just add on the Your Digits, it was the single thing that I got commended for the most during one of our last huge hurricanes that devastated us was, and I know this is terrifying, but I threw my cell phone number out there and I put it front and center on every email that I sent out to my 1,500 members. And I will tell you, it is the one thing I was noticed for the most. It was the one thing I got the thank you for. And I will tell you, my phone does not ring. They're not using it. I don't get a random call on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock. It was the fact that I put myself out there and was willing to do that. It was noticed.
Yeah. And your members won't abuse it. They really won't. It's everybody has my cell phone number. I mean, anybody can reach me. I have 48,000 members, call away. But they don't, a few do, but nobody abuses it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when getting, again, to your members, and we need to wrap up, but make sure your members know how to reach you. Use your social channels. Use video. Our members are watching video even if they can't bring themselves to read through all of the dense materials that are out there. So we're starting to use video, and we're telling members with every communication, every single one, how to reach us. And I can't stress that part enough, that you have got to put yourself out there in as many formats and as many platforms as you possibly can.
Yep.
Okay. And this one, Cynthia, I'll let you add to it, but use your influencers to get the message out. So you all have influencers in your market. For us, we have an instructor who's particularly popular. We have social influencers like Lee Brown in our state, and we are starting to engage them to get the message out because they can reach people that we're never going to reach, but it's with information that our members really, really need. And so there's no pride in this. Just use anybody and everybody you can to get the message out.
No, agreed.
Okay. Let's see. And finally, also the last thing I want to say is make sure your members know what services to expect. So if you have a legal hotline that's still operating, let them know because they need that right now. Our legal hotline has blown up. Tech helplines, education, virtual meetings, whatever you are still doing to make the lives of your members easier and to get them the help that they need, make sure that they know about it and that you are talking about it. And keep as many services going as you can, because in a crisis, in a disaster, that's when your members need you most. Anything you want to add to that?
Nope, you got it.
Okay. All right. So I think that is the end of our piece. So I'm going to turn it back over, and we'll start answering questions on the chat now.
Thank you, Andrea and Cynthia. And next speaker up is going to be Melynn Sight for Credible Communications in a Crisis. Melynn, are you on the line now?
Yes, I am.
All right, perfect. Do you want to try to upload your presentation?
Can you turn it over to me?
I did. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second, please. Sorry for the delay, everyone.
Well, everybody, while we work out the details in the background, excuse me, a crisis can be more than just a natural disaster. And I'm sure each of you have had situations where, over time, something has come out of the blue and knocked you right off your path. Whether that's in my case, within my first year, we got a call one day from our regulator who was informing us that they were taking away the license of one of our largest brokers that day, and 10% of our membership that day on a Thursday afternoon were going to be without a license. And so, again, the same principles of being prepared, being ready, knowing how to deal with the issues that come at you, and how to keep people informed Keep your members informed, keep your staff informed as to how things are going to unfold and where they can get information is critically important. So it looks like, Melynn, you're ready to go.
Great.
And we'll turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to hope you can hear me. So, hello everyone. I really appreciate the chance to join you today about what I know is a challenging topic right now. Communication is at the heart of what you do, but I'm sure that communication doesn't necessarily top your list as the only thing you have to do today. You're juggling so much changes coming in, changes going out. Let's pause for 30 minutes to think through the basics of member communications during a crisis. I'm going to suspect that each of you are dealing with your own version of uncertainty and intensity in your organization, in dealing with conflicting information and making tough decisions, and especially many of you and many of your members who are personally touched by this virus. And at the same time, I'm seeing this heightened sensitivity for taking care of one another. From the street where I live to seeing the news feeds and everything that's kind of going on in the background, I don't know if you feel it, but there seems to be this feeling of solidarity and a sense of community through this uncertain time that we're all going through. So I got to thinking about that. Isn't that what an association is? Looking out for one another, a sense of community, especially now. We all, I think, have experienced what happens when communications is inconsistent or conflicting. That is the opposite of solidarity. It leads to uncertainty and fear and anxiety and even frustration. So layer on isolation and the end of the routine as we all know it, and then anticipating what happens when the work stops, we now have the definition of the worried soul. Even the best communications go awry in a time like this with information that you may not know is accurate. My husband, the realtor, uses this phrase often as it relates to property. But today, let's talk about the best and highest use of your time and energy when it comes to communicating during this crisis. Since you association executives are my village, you all here on this call, this is a collection of reminders. I'm the one who is getting to have conversations with you between your Zoom calls and peculiar member inquiries. I get a glimpse of what you're doing to field questions and rebuild the way you deliver your core services and influence or explain the decisions that could make the difference for a member to stay in business or not. I know how hard you're working. You're figuring out what information to put out there, how often to do it, what updates you need to seek out. How do you convey solidarity to those worried souls, your members? What do you owe them at a time like this? So, as you're growing your new business and communications legs, so to speak, let's talk through 6 components of a crisis communications approach so that you don't wing it. This is being credible through a crisis. Some reminders, some ideas for unprecedented days like today and tomorrow, so that you can present the best and most relevant information to your members. This will be a roadmap for the way you organize your communications for today. And then who knows, it might teach you something unexpected that you didn't think of as you move forward. Or I hope not, but maybe for the next time we're in these uncharted waters. So I hope you'll take 1 or 2 things from today that you can use right away to develop some structure to help you feel like you have a solid approach to getting through and helping your members. The biggest takeaway I wish for you today is this. What you say and how you say it are equally important. Some of you by now have heard me offer this analogy, but it's more appropriate now than ever. One of the lessons we learned from the show, What Not to Wear, is that we get into ruts, dressing the way we've always dressed rather than thinking about the situation or what we need to do differently today. And today is a different day. This young lady is thinking, people shouldn't judge me by the way I look. They should judge me for my intelligence and my work ethic. And then later in that show, she comes out with this reveal that looks like this. And what a difference a little attention to detail makes. And we do the same thing in our communications that we don't even realize. We think about, maybe we don't think about how we plan and organize and deploy communications. How to be simple and clear when we communicate in a crisis. Don't forget, people judge you by the words you say and the way you say it. So here's what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes. 6 universal considerations and thought starters. I am not suggesting that you do 6 new things. I'm going to suggest that you use what you have. You know, you're the best one to decide what you have and if it's working well for you. While I'm reviewing these 6 steps, just remember they are all interconnected. There is no right or wrong order to this list, but they all fit together. They help you deliver genuine, thought-out communications at a time like this. Communications that a member can absorb, and as you know, they are thirsty to hear. So let's all take a deep breath and think about those members who are feeling helpless, hopeless, fearful, worried, in the thick of it, and how one or more of these ideas can help you do what you do even better to reach and to help them. Today, more than ever, you, your staff, your leaders, you are all in the communications business. So let's get started. Number 1, show empathy and care. Because of all the things that you are juggling in a day, it's natural that communications might lean a little bit more towards the news, the latest update, the association update, the board decision. Your president might be asking, or maybe even ANSI, what they can do or say to be visible. Step 1 is focus on them first, them, the worried soul. Their reaction to the latest shutdown or things coming to a halt just at closing time for them. What must be their questions, their worries, the ones you can answer? There are excellent communications examples out there. I'm going to show a few of them today just to reinforce the point. But I'd like to start with a post that shows genuine care. And it reads like this. The last few days have been extremely trying for all of us. Trying to help our clients through a pandemic could be one of the greatest challenges we'll ever face. I wanted to let you know how incredibly hard your association is working on your behalf and how we're continuing to advocate for home ownership. To show care, almost intuitively, PAR's president thought through the concept of focus before you write and answered, maybe subconsciously, these 4 questions. If you know your goal, you're going to be more focused in what you say. If you know your audience, you're going to be more likely to speak in their language. Knowing your audience means putting a face with each of your target audiences inside your head. And then if you're clear on your goal and your audience, you're going to be able to help them be clear about what's in it for them in a language that they're going to be able to relate to. And then this is maybe the one that just seems to be missing a lot. Never assume they automatically know what to do next. Always be clear. If you can take 60 seconds to pause and answer these 4 questions before your pen hits the paper or the keys hit the email, you'll relay a thought-out communications piece and connect with members to show you care and show that your focus is on them. So that's step 1. Think about it. Consider what's coming out of your association. Be sure you're conveying the human side and showing genuine care. Number 2, while I think you all are becoming expert at quick decision-making and flexibility, that's part of your new job description in today's environment anyway. Now is not the time for knee-jerk reactions or rash decisions. Every crisis has a plan. We all have seen in real life the consequence of failing to plan. Maybe you share with me the feeling that we'll never maybe admit to, that nervous, uncomfortable feeling, but it feels like when we're winging it. Nothing beats the confidence of knowing you have an approach, you have a system. It's a perfect starting point in this situation. Doesn't have to be complicated nor overwhelming, but this crisis deserves a plan. There is no business asset that is more valuable than preparation. The way you approach your communications today, you know what? You should really be thinking this way. They can make or break how members see your association today and going forward. If you didn't plan yet for this, which nobody did, but if you didn't plan for the way you'll communicate about critical information and changing by the minute and conflicting information, start today. A crisis plan helps you brainstorm and stay focused on your audiences, on the essential information that they need to know, and a key message that they can grab onto so they know what to expect from you. You may think that you can remember all this in your head. I know you are really good at what you do. But I happen to know you have a lot going on in your head. No one expects to keep a plan like this in your head. Even in a change-by-the-minute mode, if you have a plan, you're going to be ready. This is a complete, living, real-life communications plan. It looks complicated, but it's really not. It's built over time. It didn't start out like this, and I wouldn't ever expect that you're going to work from something like this. It starts out simple with maybe only a framework, like target members, the members who have to hear from you, and the various ways you're going to communicate with them about your expertise, what you're going to be able to deliver to them in this crisis. So you start small, you build on it. With a plan, you're going to stay focused on what you know those members need to know. You'll make quicker decisions about what information you're going to source and how you present or post that email or that social. You'll be better organized to make it audible about frequency or the channels that you'll use to reach them when you need to. If you work from a plan, you're going to slash it pretty severely right now. Anything that is not hyper relevant, the most applicable for answering those questions the member needs to know is going to go for now. We call that removing the rot, the redundant, the overwhelming, and the trivial. There is a lot that's trivial that you're going to remove from your plan because it's a crisis. That's how you change this plan for a crisis. Yours may scale up if you're a larger association with complex sources and audiences, or a smaller organization with a simpler plan. Either way, when you see what you deliver and all the channels you use to communicate, you're going to make faster and better decisions every day. Your key communicator needs to lead this effort. That might be you. So what if you don't have one? Here is a template for a simple crisis communications plan, quick and dirty. With a plan, you're going to keep one key message in front of your members all the time. This is just one example. We'll talk about your key message in a minute. With a plan, you're going to be thoughtful about what audiences you need to reach, and then you'll know who you're talking to when you send the news. Let's catch up. Before you send a one-size-fits-all breaking news item, you're going to be able to ask yourself or ask your team, will a new member understand what we're saying? Your plan helps keep you focused on 2 or 3 important audiences that are desperate today for your information. Of course, if you plan this way, you're more likely to reach many more beyond those 3 groups that you see in that second row. A plan helps you be intentional about what you say. It answers exactly what they might be looking for or what you're collecting, the questions you're collecting. It is not business as usual, so of course, you're not going to promote, oh, I don't know, it's busy season for open houses because there's a new normal for open houses. So use your plan to think about today's post or what you'll present next Monday. Think through what information to present to that worried soul. Guide them on how their traditional, ordinary activities are going to be different. That's the way you'll offer constructive, positive advice. With a plan, you're going to look for the topics and the updates and the new news that is most important. Is it transactional items like closings or notaries or special forms? Is it tips to share with buyers and sellers? Is it realtor safety? That one takes on a whole new meaning today. Is it local and state orders or restrictions? This plan represents a brainstorming tool for you. I know you might think continuing education is most important. A plan helps you stay focused on just really considering what they need now for their business to survive and for them to be healthy today. As an example, some of your cities and states declared residential real estate an essential service last week. Some of them did. Some are in the midst. Some haven't. With a plan, you'll look at, you'll plan, and you'll offer news to the broker. You'll send that news to the broker, absolutely. And then you'll go beyond that. You'll help the new member, one of perhaps your target audiences, with an article or a video about safe procedures for conducting virtual open houses, or for the rest of your members, a Q&A, or the specifics on showing a house using social distancing, or a one-pager to maybe download and print. Yes. Oof. I don't know. Some solutions cover more than all of those target audiences. No one expects you to talk to 3 audiences every time. Don't get me wrong. But no one wants to always read news that's only directed to a certain segment like a broker, or that's so generic they don't know who it's meant for. So this keeps you organized. And while it may feel like some kind of maybe a stress test today, start working from a plan that's simple and keeps you organized. And once this is a habit, it just might be the way to plan going forward. While you're fielding 10 other priorities, you have this plan in front of you, you're going to think more clearly about what to publish and where to publish it. And when a new news item comes up, it helps you think about how you'll spread the word. This is page 2 of that crisis template. With a plan, you're not going to only deploy anything on Thursday because your day is Thursday. You're going to shift. You're going to audible by a day or 2 because of breaking information. On the other hand, be careful what you jump to send out today because it could change tomorrow. A plan offers you the chance to be intentional about making a one-off. And I know, and Andrea just said this a little bit before, in her situation, in the hurricane, you were sending out as much information as you can because there is no guarantee that technology is working. I'm going to ask you to be intentional about the one-offs that you decide to present to their newsfeed in their inbox. The network is working. The internet is working. People are overwhelmed. And remember, you're not the only one sending the same news to them. So help them manage coronavirus right now as it relates to your organization. Example. Kudos to Baldwin Realtors for a hyper-relevant webinar just yesterday on navigating tax credits for the self-employed. How do you use this approach that I just talked about for that? So you have this idea that members are asking about, and you shed some light on it. In this case, it's the CFO presenting all of the elements of the new tax bill that was recently passed. So first, answer the 4 questions, quick and dirty, very quickly. Next, figure out how you're going to reach your members with a splashy social post, with a clear, hyper-relevant announcement that includes a new header that Baldwin created with a key message at the top. What will go into your website, your MLS home screen, your text messaging system? Technology is working. When members are getting more information than they can process from competing sources, this plan is going to be a cheat sheet that helps you through how to show the best possible face to your worried, anxious members. Another example of maybe something not to do, let's look at a communique that came to every one of your inboxes last week. It's this one. And I'm going to suggest that you do not take verbatim an email that was sent early one day by NAR, or a state association for that matter, and send the same article as is. Some people think that nobody's paying attention. Others think everyone is hyper paying attention. We all, though, get really annoyed by seeing the exact same information repeated from different sources. So you have 3 or 4 or even more ways to make this information hyper-local or targeted to your audiences. How could you focus on your member? Think like your member. Let's see. You could summarize the key points. There are many key points here. You could summarize them in short form and link to the article so they can scan it first. Even today, don't forget that readers are scanners. They're looking for what's relevant to them right now. You could make it local. You could say how this change will work in your particular market, since this is national information. Explain it one level down. You could take one element of this news item and explain it in layman's terms. By the way, I read Bob Goldberg's email and I noticed a couple things I frankly don't understand. Perhaps you would explain qualified opportunity funds in case your members aren't familiar, just in case your members aren't familiar. This is your chance to build value for your audiences. Don't just forward the news. Think about it before you cut and paste and hit send. By the way, there are some well-done pieces of this communication you see here. I'm going to address that in a few minutes. It is a new world for everyone. So if you think that you cannot build new habits on the turn of a dime, think to yourself if you're doing anything different today than you did about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. Does anyone take you and your partner's temperature every morning? Every morning? Does anyone clean the sinks and countertops? Well, now that you can, multiple times a day. Does anyone else take your shoes off every time you come inside the house? Do you talk to someone in your family at the same time every day? Do we all do it the same? No, we don't all do it the same. But the idea of changing things at work is not a far reach from the new habits you're developing right there in your home. So make a plan and then use it. Okay, let's pivot. You have information coming to you from many, many different directions. How are you going to manage it so you know which news to keep, how you'll say it, who you're going to say it to? Number 3, with a plan in front of you, your team, yes, everyone needs a team around them. You're going to need to prioritize and pivot in your messaging, your frequency, and the process for collecting information and then disseminating it. That means making some decisions about what and how you're going to gather the right information. Just in case you haven't thought through this yet, I suspect you have. But just in case you haven't, do it now. It's up to you. You on this line, the leader, to make sure your communications are well coordinated. So here's a team effort. It started with a formal sit-down to decide how to use their plan and adjust it for a crisis. It's a plan with a member right in the middle in yellow, right there. It has inputs from many sources and a team doing the work, and the outcome is purposefully thought out. This is Pennsylvania Realtors' approach. With all the information that you have to sort through, you need to decide what members most need to see. You are the best one to figure out using your plan. But once you do, you can stop thinking everything has equal importance. Whatever your approach, I suspect the goal is the same. To start with questions from your customers, decide what's most important, and then deliver clear updates, clear up confusion with what's out there, and do all that on a regular schedule. In this situation, it's a daily virtual meeting between the GAD, education, and legal departments, talking to their CEO to discuss, to source, to determine the information that's coming in and what they're going out to look for from government, from related industries, from the Real Estate Commission. And then you see leadership in there. They make the policy decisions, and then the information makes its way to the communications department for clear, simple dissemination. I offer my utmost respect to every one of you for the time that you're investing to show your value to members today. I also want to thank Mike McGee and your PAR team for sharing your approach with us. This is the PAR process. By the way, here's how the communication looks every single time it goes out to members. It's equal parts clear, and it's member-focused, and it's hyper-current with up-to-the-minute information. Needless to say, it lays out in a really simple format with plenty of white space. Yes, white space, to let the eye breathe. You don't wing it and deploy communications like this. This is the way to show members you are on it and you are in it for them. In addition, This is how they pique their members' interest to come and get answers to frequently asked questions. Your members are reassured with an organization who show that they have a plan. So if you don't have a plan today, sketch one out to start organizing your thoughts. One person can't think of everything. That's why a plan is so crucial. Okay, number 4, own it. Andrea and Cynthia talked about this. Now is the time to own your member-first philosophy. This means not starting off a communication with your board of directors made a decision or important update. Instead, think about beginning your communications with their worry, with them in the spotlight. Get right to the news instead of all the caveats. Who the update's from, the label that says important update. Just get to it. If someone makes a decision to cancel classes or suspend an association activity, own it. Take responsibility for it. Instead of being a leadership decision, say it's your decision, if it is. Now is the time to put members in the forefront. Own it means, like Cynthia's situation, she wanted to be hyper accessible. Different times call for different tactics, but the idea is the same. Own your decision and your solutions. And owning it extends to the way that you communicate, too. All right, number 5. Why go to all this trouble unless you're trying to build something? Solidarity, show care, or to be the place they can rely on for credible perspective. A key message reminds your members what to do and why to look to you for it. In fact, in an ever-changing environment where there's information coming at you like a fire hose, you might need a gentle reminder to keep you on track and stay grounded for whatever day it is. Many of you have what we call a value proposition, and if you do, you have a built-in key message inside of your bigger value proposition that tells members what you promised them. And if you don't have one, stay tuned. I have several ideas for you too. For you who have a value proposition, that key message is that commitment that you make to prove over and over again and remind members what they can rely on you for. This is what the government's key messages are to keep you focused and keep you learning where to get more information. From TV to news to social, this is all over the place. That's what a key message is.
Okay, here's how much of our budget we're going to lose.
Each of these state and local key messages keep you grounded. It might be, we're in business to support your business, or we're in touch with what's important to you. These are key messages you can live by. They keep you organized and that you can communicate today. Oh, and one more example. Kudos to Virginia Realtors. Their value proposition focuses on protecting and supporting the member's business. You show how you protect and support the member's business through information about how the virus is impacting your customer from the buyer and seller's perspective. Look at what you already have that can help you prioritize and present a credible voice. But what if you don't have one, a formal key message or value proposition? NAR has you covered. You have available 2 pre-established value propositions that you can use or modify for yourself as a foundation for the way you communicate today. There's a link on the left where you can download materials from NAR to search for Value Proposition Toolkit. For example, one key message might be tackling the issues that are core to your business. Here are a couple other key messages you might use. Feel free. Here's a way that the Pennsylvania Realtors described the commitment of Code of Ethics. That's the third little icon on the right of your screen. Ethics and high realtor standards. How you can explain how the Code of Ethics applies to a shutdown or what's happening in your community. And number 6, readability matters. Here are 3 simple reminders that I think during this time are going to keep us all in line with the best communication practices. It doesn't matter that your office is closing. It matters what the member can or can't do because the office is closing.
I'll be straight. So like
Remember to tell them the problem you solve, not simply the issue you're working on or the news you're reporting or the service you offer.
Some of the gals over at Title I.
Features are the things that you do.
Right.
Benefits are the things the member will be able to do because of what you offer them.
Yeah, like Teresa's
Both parts make a strong combination, but don't stop at the feature. When I read Bob Goldberg's email the other morning, I couldn't help but smile. Down here in the middle, everything in blue is a benefit to the member. So instead of stopping with suspending the application for interest deductions, he went on to say to avoid penalizing businesses for borrowing during a crisis.
So basically,
it's your own communications. And remember that things like changes in tools and classes and even new news, those are features. The benefit is what the member will be able to do or not do because of the news and the tools and the classes. And next, readability. Long sentences, big words, passive sentences, they are out. Studies reveal that people are twice as likely to understand your information if you do these three things. Short sentences, easy to understand words, and use the active voice. Passive is the way the government communicates, not clear or simple. Passive voice shifts away the focus from the doer, where active voices focuses on the person doing it. You want to be the doer. So passive, the mouse was eaten by the cat. Active, well, here you go. Real life examples of passive sentences, active sentences. Which shows more care? Which seems more genuine? Finally, the old rule of thumb is when in doubt, over communicate. You might communicate more now than you did then, but studies show that that works against comprehension. They can only absorb so much. So the new rule of thumb is to right size. You still got 2 seconds to get their attention and keep it. Make sure you know them that well. So what's next? I know you're working overtime to prioritize the right services and policies and communications for those you serve. So what's next? Remember, never assume someone automatically knows what to do next. You got to be clear. So here's the next step. If you don't have a crisis communications plan, you can start working on one now. Start simple. Go get and revise the one you have or use the template you saw here. A plan that outlines who does what. That's the best way I know to help you filter all the information that's happening with you today.
that are like, this is like,
Yes, we're in the middle of a crisis.
the numbers don't lie.
Yes, logistical, biological, economic, it's changing often. Maybe after all of this, you will grow something out of this crisis that you didn't expect. New habits, new connections, new confidence.
It's all, I run on emotion.
6 considerations and thought starters. They work like this in real life. They'll help you pay attention. They'll help you screen and filter all that's coming at you. They'll give you confidence to know that you're not winging it.
Like other people think that it's very important.
So you can trust but verify you're doing the best job possible. Thanks for mingling safely with me today about new communications habits and to help you pull audibles without getting overwhelmed. So before I turn this back to Bill, can I wrap it up?
I don't feel like
Thanks to music, they say the greats don't have to think about the music. They're all about connecting with the audience. They know their music. They know how they blend with the rest of the band. They know how the music should sound. Keep thinking about that as you navigate this crisis. Find your new rhythm for communicating through this one. This is not the best time for much, but it is the best time to show your members what you're made of. You can make stronger connections at a time like this. So go on, take your listening hat off and put your leader hat back on and lead with grace and confidence through this crisis, because I am pretty sure that winging it is just not your style.
and those people, I mean, and this is worst case scenario, and it's not like somebody thinks you do it, but this is the way they have to think. It's like, what if it goes exactly?
Lynn, before we wrap up, do you want to take some questions from the chat, from the Q&A session? I know several people have jumped in and asked whether or not you're able to share these slides. I know the webinar is being recorded and will be available on the NAR hub, but are you able to share these slides?
Of course, they're actually already in the Dropbox file, so you can go get them now.
Okay.
By the way, I was hearing a little background. I was just kind of panicked, as you know, this is like the time to be panicked, that I was talking and nobody was hearing me. So, Bill, I'm glad to hear that perhaps it was coming through.
Oh yes, no, absolutely, we could hear you. The spreadsheet, the Excel files, the communications plan, is that something that you could share a template with as well, or is that something?
Yes, I will absolutely share that template. And I just want to make clear that what's in that template that you saw is, you know, an example. Take it, it's going to be this Word document. Take it, make it yours, add more columns, change the target audiences, make it your own. It's a thought starter.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Andrea and Cynthia and Melynn. Great information there. I think, you know, we heard very clearly the need to be prepared, to have a plan, to be empathetic, be honest, be open, be transparent. It's interesting, Andrea and Cynthia were talking about the need to be fully mobile. I did an interview with a local radio station here about the impact of having to close our office and what's happening to our industry as a result of all of the precautions that are in place now. And I made the point that really, you know, we've been, as a society, we have been building the technology that enables us to carry on almost normally. It's odd, but it's normal. You know, 10 years ago, this kind of a pandemic, these kinds of restrictions really would have shut down our industry, and we wouldn't have had the tools to be able to work from home. Things like cloud storage and online communications and that we really hadn't developed to the point where it could be used. So you know, great information there, fully mobile setup. Communicating with staff is critical in any kind of a crisis situation. It doesn't matter if it's a staff of 2 or a staff of 2,000. Everybody is looking for leadership at a time during a crisis, and it's you as the association executive really has to be that leader. Even your own leadership, your elected directors are looking to you for leadership, so it's very important. Put yourself out there. Be seen to be, you know, to be connecting with your members. Be seen to be empathetic, and as Cynthia said and Andrea, that you know that's critical, and it will come back in spades to you. And certainly, you know, the notion when Melynn talked about what an association is and that sense of being in it together and being a community is critical to association management. So thank you very much to Andrea and to Cynthia and Melynn, and certainly for everybody for coming. A couple of reminders now before we sign off. You will get an evaluation form following this session. Anybody who's pre-registered will get an evaluation form. It's really important to us that you complete those forms so that we get feedback on how these sessions are going and the kinds of topics that you'd like to see. Next Friday, at the same time. Now, next Friday is Good Friday, although I don't think anybody is going to be in church. We are looking at the possibility of doing a session around COVID-19 information and what we are all doing to manage through this situation, and what the latest update is. And I think we were chatting before we got started today. It seems like the information is changing daily, if not hourly, and staying on top of what's the current guidance, what's the current public health direction that we should be giving to our members, changes on a regular basis. So next week, if we can put it together, we're going to try and put together something on good guidance to our members, to our associations on COVID-19. So look out for the registration information on the hub and through the AEI year-round Facebook group, and in Canada on the AE network. And just, I guess, to finish up, again, to answer some of the questions, This session, as all of these webinars are going to be, has been recorded, and it will be edited and uploaded to the landing page for the AE Institute on the Realtor on NAR.Realtor. Having said all that, again, thank you all very much, and I'm going to turn it back over to Kyle.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks to all of our speakers today. What a wonderful session. We're receiving your comments. You guys are welcome. We're going to, like Bill said, post everything to NAR.Realtor on the virtual AEI virtual sessions landing page. So we'll get that link out to you soon. Thanks, everyone, and hope to see you next Friday. Take care.
Bye-bye.